What if I told you that one of history's most famous queens was destroyed by a crime she never committed? But the truth to this story is so much wilder than anyone could ever imagine. Let me tell you how a single piece of jewelry helped topple a monarchy and cost a queen her head. Because this isn't just about diamonds. Oh no, this is about the greatest con in history. One so perfect that even when the truth came out, nobody wanted to believe it. The year is 1789, and the French Revolution is exploding across the country of France. And do you know what they're saying about Marie Antoinette? Let them eat cake, which she never actually said, and that gosh darn diamond necklace, the one that she never even bought, never wanted, and never even laid eyes on. But then, let's go back to where it all began. France in the 1780s was a powder keg. The royal court at Versailles? Pure excess. While peasants starved, aristocrats wore wigs 3 feet tall and were throwing parties that cost more than entire villages made in a whole year. And at the center of all of that sat Marie Antoinette herself, Austrian born, fashion obsessed, and already despised by her subjects who called her, and excuse my French, La Autrichienne, the Austrian. But she didn't even help her own reputation. The woman had a gambling problem that would make a Vegas high roller blush. She was known for losing the equivalent of millions and millions of dollars in a single night at cards, and her spending on clothes and parties was absolutely legendary. So when whispers started about a diamond necklace worth an estimated 1.6 million livres, that's over $100 million today, people actually believed she wanted it. But then enter our mastermind, Jeanne de Saint Remy de Valois, or as she styled herself, Countess de la Motte. Please forgive my French. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. You see, Jeanne wasn't some random criminal. She was actually royalty descended from King Henry II himself. But here's the real kicker. She was flat broke. And I mean absolutely spectacularly broke. Picture growing up knowing you're literally royal blood, watching distant cousins live in palaces while you're scraping for bread money. That kind of resentment, it burns. And Jean, she was about to turn that fire into the con of the century. The necklace itself was an absolute monster. Created by the court jewelers Bomber and Bassange, it contained 647 diamonds arranged in festoons and tassels that would make Liberace jealous. They'd originally made it for Madame du Barry, Louis XV's mistress. But then Louis died, du Barry was exiled, and suddenly the jewelers were stuck with this impossible to sell masterpiece. They tried everyone. The Queen of France, not interested. The Russian Empress, nope. The Sultan of the Ottoman Empire, pass. This necklace was so expensive it had literally broken the jewelry market. But then Jean saw her opening. Cardinal Louis de Rohan, Prince Bishop Grand Almoner of France, and most importantly, desperately insecure about his standing with the Queen. You see, Rohan had once been French ambassador to Austria, where he'd made some, let's say, colorful comments about Maria Theresa, Marie Antoinette's mother. The queen never once forgave him, never spoke to him, barely acknowledged his existence at court, and Jean knew this drove him absolutely insane. So picture this. Jean approaches the cardinal with the most beautiful lie ever told. Your Eminence, she whispers, the queen has been watching you. She's forgiven you. In fact, she's asked me, her secret confidant, to act as go-between. The cardinal's ego? Hook, line, and sinker. But then Jean needed proof. So she hired a forger, a man named, forgive my French once again, Ratal de Velete, to create letters from the queen. Personal letters, intimate letters. Letters that made the cardinal believe Marie Antoinette was secretly his friend, his ally, and maybe even more. The handwriting was perfect. The paper was right, and the language was convincingly royal. And the cardinal, he fell for every single word. But Jean wasn't done. You see, she needed the ultimate proof. So she found Nicole Leguay, a young prostitute from the Palais Royal who bore a striking resemblance to the queen. She dressed her in white muslin, coached her on royal mannerisms, and then picture this scene. It's August 11th, 1784, midnight in the gardens of Versailles. The cardinal crept through the shadows, his heart pounding. There, by the grove of Venus, stands a figure in white. The moonlight catches her face. "My dear cardinal," she whispers, pressing a single red rose into his hand. "You know that a queen must be circumspect, but the cardinal need have no fears." 30 seconds. That's all that meeting lasted. But in those 30 seconds, Jean sealed the con of the century. Now armed with the cardinal's absolute belief, Jean made her move. The necklace, she explained, was the queen's heart's desire. But she couldn't be seen purchasing it directly. The political climate was way too dangerous for that. Would the cardinal, though, act as her agent? Yes, he would. The cardinal practically threw himself at this opportunity. Here was his chance to finally win the queen's favor, to restore his position at court, and to prove his worth. He met with the jewelers, negotiated the terms, and signed the contract himself. Then, the coup de grace. When the jewelers handed over the necklace, they expected to give it to the queen's representative. Instead, Jean sent a man claiming to be the queen's valet. His name? Comte de la Motte, Jean's husband. The jewelers, trusting the cardinal's word, handed over 1.6 million livres worth of diamonds to a complete stranger. Within days, the necklace was broken apart and the diamonds were sold in Paris and London. Jean's husband fled to England with the proceeds, and Jean herself, she started living like the royalty she'd always claimed to be, buying properties, throwing parties, wearing jewelry that rivaled the queen's own collection. And for months, this con was perfect. The cardinal waited patiently for his audience with the grateful queen. The jewelers waited for their payment, confident that French royalty was good for the debt, and Jean lived like a queen with stolen diamonds. But then, July 1785, the jewelers finally, fed up with waiting, approached the queen directly, thanking her for her business and asking about the overdue payment. Marie Antoinette's response was immediate and confused. "What necklace? I never ordered any necklace." And the cardinal's world collapsed in an instant. Confronted with the truth, he realized he'd been played. But by then, it was too late. The necklace was long gone. The money was spent, and all of France was about to learn about the whole sordid affair. King Louis XVI was beyond furious, not just about the theft, but about the humiliation of the whole thing. His wife's name had been dragged through this scheme, and now the entire French court was buzzing with gossip. He ordered the cardinal's immediate arrest right in the middle of court ceremony, in front of everyone. The trial that followed wasn't just about jewelry. It became a referendum on the monarchy itself. The cardinal, Jean, and others stood trial. Marie Antoinette wasn't in the dock, but her reputation itself was. The trial of 1786 had everything: royal corruption, sexual intrigue, forged letters, and a prostitute who had impersonated the Queen of France. The public ate it up. Pamphlets flew off the presses, and satirical songs filled the streets. Everyone had an opinion. And Jean's defense was brilliant in its audacity. You see, she claimed the queen was in on it, that Marie Antoinette had orchestrated the whole thing to acquire the necklace while maintaining plausible deniability. It was complete fiction, but it played perfectly to public prejudices. The prostitute Nicole confessed everything: how she'd been coached, how she met the cardinal in the gardens, how she never claimed to be the queen. The forger admitted to creating dozens of fake royal letters, and the evidence was overwhelming. But then, here's the twist that changed history. The court acquitted the cardinal not because he was innocent, He was clearly a fool who'd been conned, but because the judges believed he'd acted in good faith. The real masterminds, Jean and her accomplices, were convicted. Jean was sentenced to be whipped, branded with the V for volosier, thief, and imprisoned. But the public chose to believe Jean's lies over the court's truth. You see, you have to understand what France was like in 1786. The country was broke, the people were hungry, and resentment against the aristocracy was boiling over. The idea that their queen, this foreign-born woman who spent fortunes on fashion, had orchestrated an elaborate jewelry heist, it confirmed everything they already believed about royal corruption. It didn't matter that Marie Antoinette was innocent. It didn't matter that she'd actually refused to buy the necklace when first offered. It didn't matter that she lived relatively modest by royal standards for years after her early excesses. The story was too perfect to let facts get in the way. L'affaire de Collier became the scandal that defined Marie Antoinette's reputation. Every single satirical cartoon, every revolutionary pamphlet, every piece of anti-royal propaganda referenced that necklace. And when they finally put her on trial during the revolution, the diamond necklace affair was still being cited as evidence of her greed and corruption. But then, the final lasting twist. Jeanne de Lamotte achieved something most criminals only dream of. She destroyed her target's reputation so completely that even proving the truth couldn't save them. Marie Antoinette spent the rest of her life defending herself against a crime she'd never committed, while Jeanne, even branded and imprisoned, became a folk hero to people who saw her as someone who had exposed royal hypocrisy. The necklace itself never recovered. Those 647 diamonds disappeared into the black markets of Europe. Their brilliance scattered, but their impact on history incalculable. Because here's what makes this the greatest con ever pulled. Jeanne didn't just steal jewelry. She stole the Queen of France's reputation. She weaponized public prejudice and royal insecurity to pull off a heist that helped topple a 1,000-year monarchy. 3 years after the trial, the French Revolution began. And 4 years after that, Marie Antoinette lost her head to the guillotine. And among those charges read at her execution, the affair of the diamond necklace, accusation she never escaped. You see, sometimes the perfect crime isn't about the money you steal, it's about the truth you bury. And Jeanne de Lamotte, she buried the truth so deep that even today, most people still think Marie Antoinette was guilty. Now that's what I call a masterpiece.